Scottie Barnes' hot start to the NBA season has once again called into question the Raptors roster construction and if it maximizes the strengths of the young star. But if the Raptors are going to build the roster around Scottie Barnes, does that roster include Pascal Siakam? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Hour Sports, the YouTube channel that is dedicated to providing you Toronto Raptors content in videos just like this, as well as live stream watch-alongs and added YouTube shorts. If you like what you see from today's video, make sure you smash that like button. Let's really hammer the like button on this one, everybody. Only takes a second out of your day. And to keep up to date with all the content coming your way this season, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, helping me on my road to 16,000 subscribers. Pascal Siakam's slow start to the NBA season, coupled with the amazing hot start by Scottie Barnes, has called into question the future of the Raptors and if it does include Pascal Siakam. And if it doesn't include Pascal Siakam, what is the best way to maximize the value of the player for this team and for this organization going forward? There's three different possible outcomes for Pascal Siakam by the end of the season. We're going to discuss them a little bit later on in this video, but we also need to start off with what have been the source of Pascal Siakam's struggles so far this season? Has it been Siakam not playing well? Has it been a newfound role by Darko Rajakovic where he's not really getting the most out of the all-NBA talent that he has at his disposal? Well, it's a little bit of both, but I think it mostly leans on the change in role here for Siakam. Darko has Siakam playing a completely different role to what he was doing last season. Last year with Nick Nurse, with a very isolation-centric offense, Siakam was one of the most drive-heavy players in the NBA and found a lot of success doing so, and the Raptors offense as a whole found decent success with him doing that. It felt like a lot of the time Siakam had to bail us out on the offensive end, especially in the half court, and this season we've gone with a completely different approach for Siakam from an offensive standpoint. He's finding himself on the weak side of the offense way more often than you would see last season. He's often having to be the floor spacer for this team. There's such a lack of floor spacing that they're having Siakam do it in a lot of senses, and he's spacing the floor for the likes of Scottie Barnes, which, you know, that's great. Space the floor for Scottie Barnes. He's playing amazingly, but also a lot of the times he's having to space the floor for players like Dennis Schroeder as well. And Dennis Schroeder's been great this season. You see the scoring numbers have been good. The assist numbers have been outstanding. So you want to see a lot of the ball in Dennis Schroeder's hands, but you shouldn't really have this team playing at the expense of the all-NBA caliber player you have here. It's a two-time all-NBA player, most recently 2 seasons ago, and it's a two-time all-star, most recently last season. Clearly, a very capable player here, having to be used as this weak side floor spacer or having to make a fake cut to the rim to take away a help defender that's on the guy with the ball in his hands, which was normally Scottie Barnes or Dennis Schroeder, as I mentioned. So in the half court, his role has completely changed. He's taking on way more threes than we've normally seen. It almost feels as though half the time Siakam takes a shot in the half court, it's a three-pointer. And like 80% of the time he takes a shot in the half court, it's a jump shot in general. The lack of floor spacing on this team has made it incredibly difficult for Siakam to find any space on the inside, which makes him settle for a lot more jump shots. Siakam is obviously at his most efficient when he's at the rim, carving his way to the rim, but when he's constantly getting double teamed because of the lack of floor spacing on this team, that help defender. He just has a much shorter role to the rim to help against Pascal Siakam because he doesn't have to worry as much about the guy on the outside hitting that three-point shot. So once again, floor spacing has hampered a little bit of the team, but it's also hampering Pascal Siakam by a wide degree. But you might be saying, well, if Siakam's struggling with the floor spacing, why isn't Scottie Barnes struggling with the floor spacing? Well, Scottie Barnes right now is hitting 66% of his jumpers in this amazing start to the season. That's not really a sustainable brand of offense for Scottie Barnes. Look, I think that efficiency-wise, he can still have an efficient season from jump shots, and that could be like mid to high 40s. It's certainly not going to be 66 for the rest of the season, as much as we want to hope that is the case. So the difference right now for the players is that Scottie Barnes is getting the ball a lot more. Siakam is providing a little bit of space to Scottie Barnes, and the difference right now is Scottie Barnes is hitting those jump shots. Pascal Siakam is not hitting those jump shots. But it's very clear the direction that Darko is taking this team at the moment so far this season after 7 games is that Scottie Barnes is the more primary focus for this team on the offensive end. So if that is going to be the case, you want to make this team about Scottie Barnes, you might have to look to trading Pascal Siakam or discussing what the other options are for the rest of the season. So 3 different things, as I said, that you can do with Pascal Siakam. The first one being, as I mentioned, trading him. In the online discourse, this is the popular choice for Pascal Siakam. I see so many people calling for Pascal Siakam to be traded. Scottie Barnes and Pascal Siakam can't coexist in the same team. I would say that's not necessarily true, but the way Darko's playing them right now, he clearly may not think that they can coexist. He wants Scottie Barnes to thrive a little bit more. If that's the case, again, let's maximize Scottie Barnes. Let's trade Siakam for some bench players. Let's trade Siakam for a better bench. Let's trade Siakam for some shooters. All this makes sense, but who's going to cough up the assets right now for Siakam? That's the biggest problem associated with trading him. So you can say they need to trade him. They should trade him. All you want. What are they going to trade him for? That's the question, because you can't just take an awful return for Siakam for the sake of giving Scottie Barnes even further room to grow, even further room to succeed. That's not really the way forward for this team. The front office shouldn't just take a bad deal for the sake of that. So what are your options actually going to be for Siakam? I seriously wonder. This player, after all, is on an expiring contract. His statistics right now aren't flattering. So even though I think they will improve and Darko will find a way to get him a little bit more involved, he should at least, it might be difficult to find a trade partner willing to cough up some really good assets for this team. And in its current state, the way the team is, like, how good is this team going to be? Do you really want to make a winning sort of trade with this one? Or are you maybe looking to recoup some draft assets in this scenario? How many teams are willing to give up some draft assets for Pascal Siakam at this present point? How many can afford that contract of Pascal Siakam while giving away those draft assets? All of these conversations make this trade complicated and likely give you a not so great return for the player. So you may have to go to your second option and go into the offseason and look to re-sign Pascal Siakam. There's been no conversation between Masai and Siakam as far as an extension goes, but the reality is Siakam makes more money even if he stays with the Raptors as a free agent than he would do if he signs an extension. So we're beyond that extension point. Siakam looks like he's going to be becoming a free agent, so look to re-sign him to the team. Siakam, as of right now, is a max contract caliber player. Like, even if he has a poor season in general, there's a lot to go by from his previous years to suggest that he still will be a max contract player. And hey, if you have pushback on that, you think Siakam's not a max contract caliber player, sure, but that's going to be his market value. You may think, well, let him walk at that point, but that's also not a really good situation to be in. The max contract going his way gives you more time. It buys you time. And I'm not saying it gives you the malicious intent to sign him just to trade him, but it gives you more time, gives you more flexibility to decide what you want to do with the player, how things are looking maybe next season, how things are looking for the rest of the season, because after all, we still have 75 more games to go this season to see how things change for the player, how things change for the team dynamic, and how Darko Rajakovic maybe tinkers the lineups, tinkers the offense going forward. Because if he starts to maximize the transition game a little bit more, that will definitely cater to Pascal Siakam a lot more and improve his statistics. So it gives you more time to make a decision. Do you want to trade him? Do you want to keep him? But at the end of the day, if you do want to trade him, it probably increases his value because you have more contract security associated with that trade. I think that makes more sense for this team to do as well. But obviously associated with trying to re-sign the player comes the third thing that could happen. That be Siakam walks away from the team for free. Maybe the rest of the season he still doesn't like his role. Maybe he's still being used as a floor spacer. He's still being used as a catch and shoot threat from the outside, although not significantly threatening so far this season. Look, we're asking Siakam to do a job that he's not really suited towards doing. It's not really fair to make him do that, but the way the roster is constructed, Darko's trying to make sacrifice in certain areas. It feels like Siakam is sacrificing the most out of all the players on this team. Siakam may not enjoy that sacrifice, and all of a sudden, we're looking at Siakam joining a completely new team in free agency. That would obviously be the worst case scenario, but what would be the best case scenario? Out of all three of these situations, Siakam walks for free, Siakam re-signs with the team, or Siakam gets traded for something that's likely not a great return. It feels as though none of those situations are winning situations. It feels like all of those are losing situations. It feels like all of those are bad situations for this team. But the front office has allowed this asset management to get to this point where we're in such a dire situation here, where you had opportunities previously, like, hey, if you wanted to commit to Scottie Barnes, why weren't you moving Siakam off of an all-star season, off of an all-NBA season? Those conversations need to be had as well. Like, if your plan this season was to use Pascal Siakam as a weak side floor spacer in a lot of ways, well, you probably should have traded him in the offseason when you knew that was going to be the case and done more to maximize the roster than around Scottie Barnes. So we're in this situation where there's three likely losing situations. So what's the least losing, the most winning? What's the least damaging out of all three of these scenarios? I will remain on the boat right now. Things could change with the deadline, that trying to extend him, trying to re-sign him is the best way forward to buy you time. I don't think that maximizing Scottie Barnes should come at the expense of taking a bad trade for Siakam. That's poor asset management. I understand the risk associated with Siakam walking away from the team for free. That would be a disaster situation, but certainly the front office has to start feeling this thing out. Feeling out what Siakam's looking for in the offseason, feeling out if he does have a desire to go to a different team. I don't know what's going on in the workings behind the scenes, but if you can get some sort of a notion that he would like to remain with the team, I think extension/re-signing is the proper way forward. I just don't see a viable trade candidate out there that's going to give us we're going to get a losing return no matter what at this point, but how bad of a losing return is that going to be? That is what really scares me here. So obviously everything is situational. If you get a good trade, hey, all for it. If you're not getting a good trade, well, I think that re-signing is the best way forward for this team. But regardless, the front office put us in a spot where, again, there is no winning situation here. How have we gotten to this point once again with a key possible free agent with this team? It's not just Siakam we have to worry about either. It's OG Anunoby on expiring contract as well as Gary Trent Jr. But in the case of Pascal Siakam, what do you think is the best way forward for this team? Let me know your thoughts and put in the comments down below. Would you trade him? Would you try to re-sign him even though it risks losing him for free? And maybe, hey, you think using him for this season, letting him walk for free is the best case. You let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's it for me for today. Drop a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more amateur sports, and I'll see you next time for another video.